In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the Backup Battery Ohmic Test for a Siemens FireFinder XLS fire alarm panel. So we got our front screen here, got the Siemens FireFinder XLS. To show the front, you got your Siemens branding, FireFinder, and on the inside of the board here on the CPU, you got the model PMI-3. So, short preamble, the NFPA updated the code in 2019 to add ohmic testing and temperature testing on a semi-annual basis. So from the 2019 edition to current, you do every semi-annual inspection, temperature test, ohmic test, voltage test, and after 3 years, you do a load test. Now for that ohmic test, what you're supposed to do is when you initially install a new pair of batteries, you're supposed to take an ohmic test, or you're supposed to conduct an ohmic test, and you're supposed to get a baseline number, right? So whatever your ohmic test is, whether you measure for internal resistance or you measure internal conductance, you're supposed to get a baseline measurement and write it on the battery. And then every 6 months after that, you're supposed to do an ohmic test again, and you measure against your baseline number. So basically what you look for is if you're measuring internal resistance, let's say you did your baseline number and you got 10 milliohms as a number for your baseline number. If you measure greater than 40%, so there was an increase more 40% in the internal resistance, that would be a fail. Or if you measure conductance and you again do a baseline reading and it's at 10 milliohms and you have a reduction of greater than 30%, that's a fail. So essentially, if I had these at 10 milliohms as a baseline, so that means out of the factory and put in brand new at the panel, I would do a baseline reading, I get 10 milliohms. If 6 months from now, I do a reading and it's at 15 milliohms, that's a greater increase than 40%, that fails. Or if it reduces to 5 milliohms, that's a greater than 30% decrease for conductance, that would fail. So these batteries do not have a baseline measurement. This is unfortunately not, I feel like, realized yet in the industry. So we're supposed to be doing this again on the baseline when we first install, just like we put the battery date when we install. So these were installed in November 6, 2024. So at the time of filming, this is March 2026. So it's been over a year. So we would, in addition to writing the installation date, we would do a baseline ohmic reading, and we would do an initial ohmic test, and we would write that down as our baseline number, and we would measure against that every 6 months. So what we're going to do is move my little baggie out of the way. We're just going to do our ohmic test, and we're just going to pretend that these are just going to be out of the battery at 10 milliohms, and we'll just go from there. Usually out of the factory, the milliohms are pretty low. You can get a manufacturer number, a reading number for the milliohms if you need, published on, whatever website for the batteries. Personally, I don't like to use that because we should be doing the baseline measurement. But like I said, a lot of companies aren't really doing this as a standard yet, even though the code has been changed for years now. So of course I got my trouble just because we have a battery disconnected. It's hard to press this when, there we go. The freaking door swings. Okay. So we got our leads on there for the first battery. So we're gonna power on our meter. So my meter just pops up with the most recent battery I tested. So that's 12 amps. So these are 12 volt, 18 amps, and there was this loop. I undid it, of course, but there's a loop right here that was connecting both batteries. So two 12 volts looped together makes a 24 volt backup system. But my meter does both resistance and capacitance. So I'm going to put in the amperage as well, so I could get a proper like a load test reading. Oops, hit my select. So we're at 18, select that. And then I'm going to hit my test button. Okay, so we're at 72 milliohms. So I get 4 numbers here. I get voltage open, voltage load, my capacitance, and then my milliohm. So we're going to ignore the other three right now. So I'm at 72 milliohms. Now, that's kind of high. I would say typically over like 50 milliohms or higher, it's probably going to be a fail. Because like I said, usually at the factory, these come lower than that. But like I said, there was no initial baseline test. So I really don't know what these were. These might have been at, 70 when they were first put in, and that would have been the baseline, and it only went up 2 milliohms, so it would pass. But again, I don't know that, so I'm just kind of guessing that these probably would fail because out of the factory, the website will say these are much lower than that coming out of the factory. But again, we have no original baseline, so I can't, give you that number. So I have a repeat test here. I'm just going to do that just to make sure my numbers are consistent. So yeah, we're at 72 milliohms still. So it is consistent. So I would likely fail these batteries if I had the original milliohm baseline reading, but I don't, so it's fine. We'll put those back. Plug our battery back in. And then I have my out trouble on the Siemens panel now. Siemens likes to do in and out troubles, which I find very annoying, but that's fine. Ugh. Just acknowledge this real quick. There we go. So we did the right battery, now we're going to do the left battery. So same thing, gonna hook our leads on. Make sure we get a good grip. Make sure this fucking thing ain't in my way. Go away. Let me grab it. There we go. So got our leads on. Yeah, it's on there. There we go. So we're on there. So we're good. Got my little makeshift table going on right here. So my meter's already set to the 18. Got our new trouble for the battery disconnected. All right, so we're gonna hit our test. Test in progress. So we're also at 72 on this one. The reading's pretty accurate or pretty similar, which is probably good for the charging circuit. That means they're probably charging evenly then, which is good. But still, 72, very high. So we're gonna hit retest, repeat test, try one more time, just see what we get. So just to make sure our numbers are consistent. All right, so we got that 72 again. So again, we don't have our original baseline, so I don't really know what these were when they were initially installed, but if I go by the manufacturer number, it's probably going to be much lower than 72, which means these would fail because they're greater than a 40-degree increase on the resistance. But again, I'm just showing this just for the process so people kind of see what they have to do for this, the ohmic test. So put my batteries back. Put that in there. Put that in there. Get my trouble signal. All right. So again, code changed. So every 6 months you do semi-annual temperature test, semi-annual ohmic test, semi-annual voltage test, and then load test has been bumped to after 3 years. So this was the ohmic test. So that is how you do the ohmic test for the Siemens FireFinder XLS fire alarm panel.